Imagine being trapped on a floating city with 5,000 people on board. When a massive fire erupts deep inside the ship, hundreds of miles from land, with no way to escape. In that moment, jet fuel, ammunition, and miles of steel corridors turn the world's most advanced warship into a deadly maze, and survival depends on everyone moving in perfect unison. What really happens next aboard the Navy's most dangerous workplace? Before we continue with the video and my further explanation about what happens when a huge fire breaks out on an aircraft carrier, I want to ask for your help. I am trying to reach 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year, so I would really appreciate it if you would subscribe and help me out. Okay, let's continue. An aircraft carrier is more than a warship. It is a city that floats on the open ocean. On board, nearly 5,000 people live and work together, surrounded by steel walls and endless sea. Every system needed for survival is built right into the ship. Massive generators supply electricity. Desalination plants turn seawater into thousands of gallons of fresh water each day. And industrial kitchens prepare meals around the clock. Medical facilities rival small hospitals, with surgical suites, dental clinics, and pharmacies ready for emergencies. Waste is processed and stored below decks, far from the flight lines and hangars above. Isolation defines daily life. Once a carrier leaves port, weeks or even months can pass before land comes into view again. There is no calling 911, and there is no fire department waiting nearby. Every emergency, whether a medical crisis or a mechanical failure, has to be solved with the resources and people already on board. The ship's scale is staggering, with hundreds of compartments, miles of passageways, and towering decks stacked with aircraft, fuel, and ammunition. Each person has a role, from pilots and engineers to cooks and medics, all woven into a tightly organized community. This floating city must be completely self-sufficient. Its crew cannot rely on outside help if disaster strikes. That is why every system, every routine, and every drill is designed with one thing in mind: survival in the most unforgiving environment on Earth. Jet fuel flows through pipes and tanks beneath the flight deck, feeding the hungry engines of dozens of aircraft. At any given moment, hundreds of thousands of gallons of JP5 sit just a few feet from maintenance bays and sleeping quarters. Nearby, bombs, missiles, and artillery shells are stacked in armored magazines or loaded onto planes, each one a potential source of catastrophe if exposed to heat. The ship's steel walls and narrow passageways trap heat and funnel smoke, turning a small spark into a deadly force. But it is not just the fuel and ordnance. Air itself becomes an accomplice. Powerful ventilation systems, built to keep the crew breathing and machinery cool, can pull smoke and flames through the ship's core. A fire that starts in one compartment can leap from deck to deck, carried by the very air meant to sustain life. Toxic gases fill the halls, and visibility drops to inches. Escape routes become choked with smoke in seconds, and the temperature in a steel compartment can soar past 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit in minutes. Every hazard on a carrier is amplified by proximity and confinement. A single ruptured fuel line or overheated electrical panel can trigger a chain reaction, setting off explosions or igniting ammunition. When fire breaks out, there is no room for error. Every second counts, and every system designed for comfort or combat can turn against the crew. This convergence of fuel, firepower, and airflow transforms the ship into a battleground where survival depends on split-second action. Within moments of ignition, the carrier's sensor network snaps to life. Heat and smoke detectors hidden in ceilings and bulkheads trigger alarms that echo through the ship, their piercing tones cutting through the daily noise. In these steel corridors, smoke does not drift. It surges, pushed by powerful ventilation fans and the natural chimney effect of the ship's design. In less than a minute, thick black smoke can fill entire passageways, turning familiar routes into blind traps. The temperature in a burning compartment can spike hundreds of degrees in seconds, warping metal and driving back anyone caught nearby. Anyone close to the fire is expected to act without hesitation. Sailors grab the nearest extinguisher or pull the handle on an AFFF foam hose, spraying a white sheet across burning fuel before the flames can leap to stacked munitions or neighboring spaces. At the same time, emergency phones and intercoms light up as crew members call in the location and size of the fire. Damage control teams, drilled to move at a sprint, race down ladders and across decks, sealing watertight doors behind them to contain the threat. Every action in these first 60 seconds, every shout, every closed hatch, every blast of foam, buys precious time for the thousands of lives at stake. On a carrier, every person has a job. But when fire breaks out, thousands move like a single organism. The secret is color. Jerseys in yellow, red, green ma and a purple, brown and blue flash through the chaos, each one signaling a different role. Jose teams form in seconds, grabbing 1.5-inch AFF lines or heavier water hoses, with at least 4 lines attacking the flames from different angles. Crash and salvage crews roll the P-25 vehicle into position, foam turrets sweeping across burning fuel. Deck handlers clear aircraft and ammunition, while ordnance teams in red shirts rush to cool bombs at risk of cooking off. Medics, marked by white crosses, set up triage zones just outside the danger area, ready for smoke inhalation, burns, or heat exhaustion. Hundreds of sailors control hatches and ventilation, sealing off compartments to keep fire from spreading. Every movement is practiced, every shout and signal drilled into muscle memory. In the middle of disaster, 5,000 people, engineers, cooks, pilots, and deckhands, become a living defense system, each trusting the next to hold the line. Steel walls and watertight doors divide the carrier into hundreds of compartments, each acting as a barrier against fire and smoke. When alarms sound, these bulkheads and hatches can be sealed in seconds, slowing the advance of heat and toxic gases. Inside every major space, aqueous film-forming foam, known as AFFF, stands ready. 22 hose stations circle the flight deck, each equipped to spray a thick white blanket that smothers jet fuel fires and prevents them from reigniting. Foam floods across burning pools, cutting off oxygen and cooling the metal beneath. For blazes below decks, smaller AFFF reels and portable extinguishers are stationed throughout engineering spaces and hangars, giving sailors the tools to act fast. Water for firefighting comes from powerful pumps that draw on both fresh and seawater supplies, feeding pressure to every compartment. Even if the main power fails, backup generators and battery systems keep pumps, alarms, and radios running. This web of defenses, steel, foam, and redundant power, gives the crew a fighting chance to contain disaster before it spreads. 3 disasters stand as warnings carved into Navy history. In 1967, a single rocket on the USS Forrestal triggered a chain of explosions, killing 134 sailors and tearing through the ship's heart. Smoke and flames raced through ventilation ducts, overwhelming every defense. Just 2 years later, the USS Enterprise faced its own inferno near Hawaii. Faulty ventilation trunks and exposed electrical systems let fire and smoke sweep through compartments, exposing design flaws that demanded urgent fixes across the fleet. Then, in 2020, the USS Bonhomme Richard burned for nearly 5 days in port. Heat and toxic smoke forced crew to abandon ship, and the damage was so severe that the Navy chose to scrap her entirely. Each fire revealed new weaknesses, and each loss was a lesson paid for in lives and billions of dollars. Once the flames are out, the real work begins. Teams fan out to inspect every compartment, mapping twisted steel, scorched wiring, and the faint chemical traces left by burned fuel. Toxic soot clings to bulkheads and ventilation shafts, forcing sailors into respirators and protective suits as they scrub away residue that can linger for weeks. Engineers test every circuit and pump, hunting for hidden damage that could threaten the ship's survival on the next mission. Long after the last hose is rolled up, shifts stretch late into the night, with crew members working side by side to restore power, patch hulls, and bring systems back online. But the scars run deeper than metal. Many who have faced fire at sea carry memories that do not fade, memories of smoke-filled corridors, alarms in the dark, and the faces of friends lost. To prepare for the next emergency, daily drills become routine. Every sailor, from the bridge to the galley, trains as a firefighter, knowing that on a carrier, safety leaves no room for error. A single spark aboard a carrier still holds the power to shape global strategy and can put thousands of lives at risk. As technology evolves, one fact remains: vigilance. Every sailor, from admiral to recruit, is a firefighter first. That vigilance is what keeps a floating city and its future afloat. Thanks for watching.